What's up, PhD community? You're welcome to the PhD podcast, which is a program dedicated to support PhD students, early career researcher, and anyone interested in the academic journey. So we will be hosting professors, experts from different field and background to share their knowledge and vulgarize their science to the broader audience, but most importantly, sharing insights and advice about the PhD journey. So I would like first to thank UM6P Studio for hosting us in this beautiful space. And I would like to thank all the technical staff behind, because they are doing great job within the PhD podcast or with all the concepts that are produced here at this studio. So in today's episode, we are hosting a very special guest, who is Professor Bruno Gérard, the Dean of the College of the Agriculture and Environmental Sciences. Professor Bruno, you are welcome, and thank you for coming to the PhD podcast.
Thank you very much for hosting me. It's a real pleasure to be with you.
It's my pleasure. Thank you very much. So, Professor Bruno, we're going to talk about the agriculture, mainly, but most importantly, the African agriculture. And I think you are the best one to talk with about this because of your expertise, this is for sure, but also because you spent most of your career in Africa. So we will be covering like all the experience that you have done in Africa. But let's start first with the beginning. Let's start first with your PhD. So you did your PhD in Germany. So what was the topic about it?
So my PhD was not the beginning of my career because I got my PhD when I was 38 years old. So it's in 2000. I did my PhD at the University of Hohenheim, then in Germany, close to Stuttgart. And the topic of my research was linked to digital agriculture, precision agriculture, before it became a very fashionable topic. So my research was based in Niger. Because I was already working for ECRISAT at that time, and the topic was to monitor plant growth using aerial photography. And I was working with a German team there, and we were developing techniques to take aerial photos. So we use balloons, inflated with helium or hydrogen. We use kites as well. And at the end, we use ultralight with remote sensing. So that was before the era of drones. And I can tell you that to take images of a landscape, to process it on the computer, took me a week. Now I'm passionate about drones, so sometimes I just use drones for fun. It's not for work anymore.
Yeah.
And I realized that what took me a week at that time now takes 1-2 hours. So the processing of the image, the mosaic you can get from it, and so I'm amazed. I've been lucky to grow and having my career during very, very rapid and strong technological developments, and I think it's been exciting.
Yeah, so I see also you do have strong connection with CGIAR. And this international institution that is include many other institutions and many other centers. Could you clarify what is CGIAR and what is the link between it and between those centers like ECRISAT, CMIT, ELRI, and what's the link between those institutions?
Yeah, in the 70s, so last century, 1970s, there was a will to respond to development challenges in the global south, and that was Africa, that was Asia, that was also Latin America. And that was, with the blessing of the World Bank, there was a creation of different research centers which had different mandates. So, for example, ECRISAT has the mandate for the semi-arid tropics. It's a specific region or specific agroecologies working on specific crops called mandate crops. ECRISAT is working on millet, sorghum, groundnut, pigeon pea, chickpea. Okay. CIMIT, for example, for which I worked later in my career. Yeah. It's the International Maize and Wheat Improvement Center. So the mandate crops are maize and wheat, and the geographic mandate of CIMIT is global. So working in Latin America, working in Africa, working in Asia as well. With, I would say, spillover benefits also for developed economies, because those are two very important crops. So, and the CG works on different programs. crop improvement. So breeding is a very important component of the CGIAR. But also on the agronomy and the socioeconomic. So it's integrated approaches to solve challenges of agriculture in the world. Yeah.
That's very nice. Yeah. I see in ECRISAT you was a principal scientist, and you have been working, I think, on dryland agriculture.
Yeah.
So could you talk about this dryland agriculture and how it's relevant right now?
Well, I think my work in Niger really shaped my mind in looking at farming systems in general, because Sahelian fringe in Africa is a very challenging region in terms of agriculture. So poverty is still very, very dominant. You know also that in those countries, most of the active population is engaged directly in agriculture. In Niger, when I was there, was probably 90% of the population was directly living from agriculture. So the livelihood was agriculture, with a lot of challenges related to poor soils, lack of fertility, soil fertility, erratic rainfall, so droughts are usually common in that region. So all the work we did in terms of research was trying to improve the livelihood of rural populations through a better agriculture, which includes agronomy, use of fertilizer, developing markets as well, because I think most of the farms in Africa are still, subsistence farms, small farms. So, and that's something that when you want to transform African agriculture, you need to be realistic about the starting point, which is most farms are subsistence farm. The main function of those farms is first to feed the family, and then the economic is something after.
Yeah.
But we are at a turning point, because I think now people need really to have agriculture being more productive and generating income as well, because for many reasons, and probably discuss that a bit later in more detail. But the vision of the development of the African continent, agriculture is very important, but that's not the only thing. I think we need concomitant development of secondary and tertiary sector. We need to increase value addition of agriculture in Africa.
Yeah.
And we need also to start looking at better return on labor investment, because nothing is mechanized. So some people say, well, it doesn't matter because people don't have other jobs and so on. But I think it's a kind of a chicken and an egg, saying, well, they don't know the jobs. I think we need to have job creation outside of the agricultural sector, because with the population growth, I mean, we are 1.5 billion on this continent today, will be 2.5 by 2050.
Wow.
So it's a continent that's growing really still very rapidly compared to Asia and Europe or America. And one other thing is also that, of course, if people only live from agriculture, farms are getting more and more fragmented from generation to generation if there is no job opportunities outside. And also to meet the increased demand for food, more and more marginal lands are clear for agriculture, forest and so on. So I think it's time to really look at the intensification of African agriculture.
You came to this intensification and the sustainable intensification, and after your experience with ECRISAT, you joined CMIT, and you was the director of sustainable intensification. So how is important to think about this sustainable intensification? I also talk about this experience, how it shaped your vision.
The name of my program, in the program I directed at CIMIT, was called Sustainable Intensification Program. And when I arrived in CIMIT, the program had a different name. It was called the Global Conservation Agriculture Program. And so we worked a lot on conservation agriculture. But I thought that the title Conservation Agriculture was more a mean to an end than the end or the objective. And for me, sustainable intensification is something important. You might know that, Norman Borlaug, who got the Nobel Peace Prize in the 70s for, working on the Green Revolution, is the father of the Green Revolution, which permitted, in fact, to feed growing populations in Asia and Mexico. the green revolution has now, some bad names because it was use of fertilizer, use of pesticides, and not much concerns about the environment. So the sustainable intensification, the principles is, the term sustainable, 3 pillars. One that is economical, the second one is social, and the third one is environmental. So you need to have those 3 pillars when you look at the intensification. So it's very important to.
While you are thinking about increasing the yield, so you are also think environmentally and
exactly
include the best farming practices.
Exactly, and looking at some people talk about agroecology, which is a nice concept. Agroecology is really focused on ecological services, on having the friendly agriculture for the environment. Some people, there are a lot of labels. Some people talk about regenerative agriculture, nature-based solution, all those type of things. For me, what's important is is the principles you follow when you try to improve agricultural systems and farming systems. So
that's good.
Yeah.
Professor Bruno, you as I said, you spent most of your career in Africa. You have been in Ethiopia, in Niger, and you travel to many countries across Africa. Now you are in Morocco, and you're still in Africa.
Yeah.
So, what's initially motivate you to spend your career in Africa or to dedicate yourself to Africa? It was meant from the beginning, or it was just a coincidence? Honestly.
No, it's not. It's not a coincidence. Well, I have in my families, like everybody, I have grand uncles who were farming when I was a kid, and I was going to the farm in summer, and I really enjoyed it. I thought that it was a very noble activity to farm. So, and when I had to decide what to study, I think it take a long time for me to. I say I want to study agronomy. I want to and I did study agronomy, but I did ag engineering, ingénieur du génie rural, because I was very interested in mathematics and physics, but related to agriculture. And Africa, yes, came directly to my mind because I was growing up in Belgium, and I saw, I was interested by world news when I was very young as well. I was reading quite a lot. I like to read the newspaper and so on, and I was really puzzled by the inequalities you had on the planet, and that's something that say, well, if I want to do something, maybe it's in the field of agriculture, and maybe it's in Africa, and so it's and the dream came true because I really enjoy, and I can tell you that's very challenging. We are not yet there. I think there's still a lot of investment needed and transformation of the continent for that.
Looking back to your career, your insightful and very rich career, so what's the most experience that shaped your vision about the research and development within the agriculture system?
Again, it's Niger, because I spent 17 years there. So, and when I came back with my PhD in 2000, I had enough work on the research station, so I wanted to do on-farm trials. I wanted to work with the farmers. I wanted to go out of the research station. And I spent about 8 years working with farming communities directly in different places in Niger and in the region. And I was lucky to get funding from Belgian corporation to have a 5 years project on decision support systems for farmers, and so we start working with the role of information knowledge in taking decisions for farmers. So we work with rural radio. The project was generous enough to set up in 3 different regions of Niger, 3 rural radios we work with. I worked a lot with FAO also at that time. They had a large project about inputs called FAO Projet Intrant. So we were working on microdosing of fertilizer. So that one of the problem of farmers is the affordability of fertilizer, because they don't have a lot of money, and usually when they need to buy fertilizer, that's the time of the end of the dry season, and they don't have a lot of money because they have to feed themselves and so on. So we work with that Projet Intrant on a scheme called warrantage, where you could, in fact, farmers could deposit part of the harvest, millet harvest, just after harvest, and the price of millet would go up during the dry season. But with that system, they could go back in, April, May, purchase back the bag, and sell it at the market price. So they would do benefits of 20, 30, 40%, depending on the season, because in Niger, the cereal price would increase during the dry season before the next harvest. So that was a financial mechanism. So I did realize, a very systemic vision of agriculture, knowing that in Africa, livestock is very important as well. So integration of crop livestock. Sometimes livestock create conflicts in rural landscapes, conflicts between pastoralists and farmers. So all those issues, shape my thinking in terms of, what to do for agriculture. It's wicked. It's a wicked problem, because it's not a simple technological fix, and not a technological innovation that will, make the revolution. So I think, and we need to be conscious of that, because if we are naive, what we do is not very useful for the continent.
That's great. It's interesting. Yeah. So if we talk challenges of the farming system in Africa, in your opinion, what is the most pressing challenge that Africa is facing right now? The big problem, if you can see.
Well, talking about food security, I think if you look at the FAO data, we are not better off today than we were 4 or 5 years ago when it comes to food security. And I think some people are still, they have, food deficits on I would say, a regular basis. So food security is one thing. In my view, it's the economic development of the continent that is very important. And that will not be only agriculture. I told you that already. It needs to be concomitant with the development of a secondary sector and tertiary sector. Yeah. Because agriculture, if we just think that agriculture will just give employment and value for everything in Africa, we are wrong. Because I think we need to, with a lot of young, bright minds on the African continent, they need to get education, they need to find jobs.
Absolutely.
We need in agriculture to start looking at, value addition to what we produce, not just for self-consumption or for local markets. We look at cash crops, for example. Some of them are just, raw exports of those, and we import it on the continent. Thinking of chocolate, for example. So the value addition is very important, and the de-risking of the agriculture at different level. I think we need to de-risk for the farmers, that they can invest. We need to have a lot of financial innovations, so farmers can invest better without taking too much risk. And we need to develop an agri-sector and a food sector, a transformation sector, to give value addition to products, not outside of the continent, but on the continent. And it's tricky because, in fact, private sector see, in general, the continent as a risky continent for investment. So that's de-risking is something that's very, very important.
Yeah, there is actually a narrative that say that Africa, when it comes to food security, is a big concern because of its growing population, as you have mentioned. But there is also another narrative which say that maybe with proper resource management, Africa could feed itself first, but it could also contribute to the global food security. So what's your vision about this?
Yeah, no, I read that, and I take that with a pinch of salt. Of course, when you look at the yield gap in Africa, you can produce much more than what is produced on the actual cultivated land. When some people talk about, Africa could feed the world, that's probably looking at the Congo Basin as a place where you could, in fact, grow crops. Yeah. But it's a forest, it's a primary forest, and I don't think we want to go there. So I in terms of the biophysical aspects of things, yes, we can feed, and we can certainly feed 2.5 billion African tomorrow. The issue is, the environment, the socioeconomics, distribution of wealth, the investments as well. That because I think at some point, there was not much investments, public investments in agriculture on the continent, and I think, and the way those investments are used. So it's always taking the analogy of the Marshall Plan. After World War II, Europe was completely destroyed, and there was an investment. I think it was $7 billion at that time, which was a lot of money. I need to check my source, but I think it was that order of that order of magnitude. But it did rebuild completely Europe because it was a clear vision and everything going into the same direction. So I think the political dimension in development of the African continent is very important as well. Governance is very important. Trade is very important. I think we need to develop trade within our continent in a much more efficient manner. That African are helping African. And I think Morocco is well placed for that also.
Yeah. And at the research level, what's actually missing to make a real impact on this agricultural system? I know that as a researcher or any researcher in Africa, most particularly in Africa, they are doing great effort tackling those challenges related to the agricultural system. But what is actually missing to make a real impact on the farmers, which is the end user?
It's an excellent question. It's a question I have since I work in the field in Africa, and I think that you find sometimes yourself, I would say powerless, because I think, research achievements, discoveries are bricks that you need to articulate in a meaningful manner. So I think a lot of things are interested in terms of agricultural research. I mean, you look at the improved varieties of the different cereals and legumes and so on. You look at, the potential of better agronomy and so on. But those are bricks, If you don't have enabling environments, as we often say, you have markets, you have policy, you have incentives. It's usually very difficult because, in fact, the adoption of those things necessitates all the alignments of things and the public policies, the economy.
Okay, so don't you think that one of the approach that we should adopt maybe is starting with the farmers in identifying our challenges that we're going to work with? Because maybe as a researcher you're going to spend time and effort working in a solution, but when you're going to give it to the farmer, maybe he's not interested on it. Maybe we should start with the farmer, understanding their need, their concern, and then we could customize and adopt our solution based on their need, on their concern.
Yeah,
what do you think about it?
It's an excellent point, and that's what we are trying to do. I mean, what is called participatory research is about that, It's understanding the needs better, understanding the diversity you have in farming systems. One farm is not the other one, so you cannot come with, just a blueprint solution. Because it depends, and agronomists say a lot. It depends when you ask them a question, but it's very important to say it depends, because you are not just you don't have silver bullet in agriculture. And I think understanding the need is one thing, understanding the environment and understanding the potential is very important, and also understanding that agriculture needs to transform itself and being in transition mode. I had the chance to travel to South Asia, and I was in Vietnam. That was about 15, 20 years ago. And I was discussing with a farmer, and he didn't have children interested in taking the farm. And that's a sign of success, because I think one of his son was a university professor, another one was in the medical field, and the daughter was also a good job. So we worked a lot when I was in CIMIT about, I was mentioning low return on labor because agriculture is not mechanized. And we worked a lot on appropriate scale mechanization, small mechanization, with two-wheel tractors that are more affordable. And there you can create jobs, because service provision is part of the model. So it's very interesting that, you can create jobs around agriculture. And, service provision is one, and all the ag industry that you can start developing. The problem is also how you size your food processing, ag industry, and so on. Because if you're in places where in 1 year you produce X, and the year after 5X, and the year after half X, and that's usually the case. So stability of production, if we want to start developing, agro industry, is very important as well. That you have some stability, because if not, you cannot size your factories and things like that. So stability is very important.
Very interesting. Yeah. So we came now to the UM6P experience.
Yeah.
So after all this big experience in Africa and in Mexico as well, so you joined UM6P at 2021. The question is, what brought you at UM6P, and what was the mission that have been assigned to you at the beginning?
Well, I was contacted by UM6P when I was in CIMIT, and in CIMIT I was working on two large programs, one called maize CRP, wheat CRP, and for the wheat CRP we did collaborate with ICARDA. So you know that a large part of ICARDA's research is based in Morocco. ICARDA is working on arid environments, and they're working on wheat as well. So I did travel several times to Morocco. Maybe later I will tell you, because I visited Morocco when I was 10, 11 years old. So with my father and my mother and my brother. But to come back to that, I had the chance to visit UM6P in 2017 at Ben Gerir, just after it was inaugurated. So. And so when I was contacted, I was probably recommended, or that was the time where UM6P was recruiting heavily. So I didn't have to think twice, and for different reasons, because I wanted to come back to Africa. I like academia as well, and I never, I did work in academia when I was teaching a research assistant at Utah State for a bit more than 3 years, and I really enjoyed that. And I was more involved in executive education than teaching young students. So I was really interested to come, and I love Morocco also. That's something, It's I was always joking with my Moroccan friends. I was saying, if you find me a job in Morocco, I can end my career. So
that's it. One of the advantages in Morocco that you're still in Africa, but you are close to Europe.
Exactly. Yes, and my kids are now in Belgium and Spain, so it's not that far. And we have cheap flights also. That's a good advantage of being in Morocco as well. But no, I think I don't like static things, so I could feel that UM6P was a new adventure. I mean, it's a very vivid place also, many things to do, a lot of still plasticity. My father was university professor, but in Louvain, and it was very, very static. That's you didn't, you recruited a professor when one went to emeritus or passed away. That was the only thing, and you couldn't even change the job description of that professor. So that's I was really attracted by UM6P, and I was not disappointed. So I came as head of the Agrobioscience department, and then. That was interesting time, because there was a lot of investment, but a bit of a gunshot approach in investing. So I could find many different research units doing about the same thing, but not talking to each other. And I think that was made in purpose, most probably, But it was probably the time also to bring some coherence and more team approach to tackling the problems in agriculture and environmental science. So we worked collectively, and Rachid Serraj, with the head of the Africa Rashid, Initiative, took the lead in developing a strategy for agriculture, water, and the climate. That was water, agriculture, and climate. Exactly.
This nexus,
So we took a year to do that, and all the research units that were involved in agriculture and water and climate, we all got together, and we presented, the strategy to the president, or
president.
draft strategy, and I think it was obvious for everybody that it would probably make sense to create the College of Agriculture and Environmental Science,
Great.
which was created in February 2023, so we're a bit more than 2 years old now.
Yeah, so congratulations on that.
And there's still a lot of things to do. We are not yet there.
Of course, yeah, of course. Yeah, so we do notice that there is many entity within this college. And I think there is many entity as much as the problem within the farming system. There is EURI, Agrobioscience, ITTC, so many institutions, CESFRA as well. So could you talk about this diversity of entities and how it's important to have this diversity at the college?
Yeah, it's important, and maybe those entities will evolve with time. Will create probably one or two new ones. But I think it was important. There wasn't on a trajectory. All those entities or units were on their own trajectories, but looking at the same problems with different expertise, disciplines, and so on. So we didn't want just to, clear flat the land and rebuild again, and we kept them, and they're still there, most of them. I mean, we're just doing some rethinking soil science, because soil science is a very, very important component in what we do. But the most important, we want those to work together. I think, the key in solving wicked problems is multidisciplinarity, transdisciplinarity, interdisciplinarity. So we need transversality at the college level, and we don't have it yet enough, because most of the research is done through funding, and we are working on funding cycles that are not yet integrated. And again, I think I'm always taking the analogy of building blocks. I think there's nothing wrong of having building blocks and having different disciplines working on different building blocks, but they need to be like a puzzle.
Exactly.
Be able to, and that's you need to you need to have an approach that you can work on things that articulate. One thing that really I'm really interested in right now is everything that is done on the biomass valorization by the Agrobioscience Program, because that's really giving value addition.
Yeah.
And it's about byproducts. It's about new products, new crops, and creating value around that. That's also linked to circularity, circular economy, and so on. So one unit that I'm really pushing to create soon in the college, and that's in the pipeline. Let's see if it comes true, but maybe I can talk about it. I hope it will not bring bad luck to that unit, but it's the Center for Applied Systems Analysis that we want to
Applied System Analysis.
Yeah, Center for Applied Systems Analysis, which will not recruit a lot of people. Few people, system thinker, will be able to work transversally across in the college, but also with other entities at UM6P. I mean, we have a very rich ecosystem. Taking School of Collective Intelligence, for example. We're talking on decision making, decision support, and so on. They can bring quite a lot of things to what we do. And talking about the Africa Business School and in discussing, we are now discussing together, and we're planning the next cycle of projects. I think we need to bring some of those with us in project design and project implementation. Africa Business School, I mean, they have the Havana project, which is funded by OCP Africa, working on supply and value chains. This is a key thing, and you can look at value chains and supply chains in one project, and you can look at the agronomy in another project. If you don't make the link, it will not as impactful as if you work together. So
interesting, very interesting. Yeah, so one of the most important things that you have worked on also is this vision strategy, the strategy of the college. And I think you have been involved in that with Professor Siraj.
Yeah.
Congratulations on this document. It's very interesting to have this document that identify critical challenges related to that nexus, agriculture, energy, and water. So could you talk about this vision and how it is guiding the research activity within the college?
Yeah, sometimes people say you write a strategy, you put it in your drawer, and you don't look at it anymore. And
it should guide the research.
It should guide you, and I think not everybody read the strategy, and I think that's fine, because it's a bit like a holy book. You can have the holy book close to you. If you don't read it and you don't translate that in what you do, it's not very useful.
Yeah.
The strategy is a bit like that. You need to keep it in your mind, and needs to guide your decision and the way you interact, the way you develop projects, the way you say yes or no to things you need to do. So it's useful, but I think strategy is the start. The beginning of the story is not the end of the story, and I think we should probably revisit our strategy on a regular basis, and at least. But action is needed,
You do also propose some promising solution that should be included within the farming system, sustainable intensification, many other things related to this to increase the yield, but most importantly, think sustainability.
Yeah, and I think we have 6 pillars in the strategy. You know them or? Make a test. No, we have climate change.
I've been reading actually the vision. There is climate change. There is science of phosphorus as well. Water.
Agriculture in dry and marginal environments.
Exactly.
Mostly Azari, which is based in Lyon. We have sustainable intensification, which is the last 6th pillar.
Exactly.
Which is more the integrative pillar. And we have
there is also
agri-food systems as well.
Exactly, There is also what you call enablers. I think 12 enablers.
No, 5 or 6,
5 or maybe, 5.
That's everything linked to digital ag. There's education also. That's very, very important. We haven't talked much about education, but I think it's very important. We have transdisciplinarity also. That is part of the enablers. So those are the good ingredients. And again, you can see at the pillars, but they are all linked together. Talking about phosphorus, if you look at phosphorus,
we're gonna talk about the phosphorus.
About phosphorus.
We're talking also about the Phosphorus Science, which is also, I think, the second key pillar within the vision strategy. And it's a key activity for IM6P and for OCP. So we are also, in Morocco, holding the largest parts of phosphorus reserve, and we need to manage it efficiently across all the value chain. So what are you supporting, and how are you supporting and assisting OCP and IM6P in this mission?
Trying to.
No,
it's going back to Niger. Phosphorus in soils was the most deficient nutrient. So you could really see a clear response to phosphorus and if you look at the available P maps over Africa, it's deficient in most soils in Africa. So, and when I took the decision to come back here, I had that in mind as well, because I did a lot of work on phosphorus cycling in landscapes in Niger, and I worked a lot on soil fertility and microdosing of fertilizer. So the first thing is that we are sitting on very large reserves. You mentioned it. It's more than 70% of the world-known reserve of phosphate, and Africa is, hunger for it, because I think, the question of the most limiting factor. You need to solve it. If you don't solve it, you don't solve the rest. So it's a no-brainer. Of course, when you solve phosphorus, you'll get to nitrogen, you'll get to other things, and then you get to how to manage excess production and things like that.
We do talk also about innovation. We know that innovation is the third key pillar of the IM6P. We do have research, education, and innovation. So how are you encouraging innovation and maybe entrepreneurship within the college?
Maybe not enough, because it's not my field of expertise, but no, I believe in that, of course, and I think it's for the continent as well. When talking about value creation, it's also that how you
impact.
And innovation can be can have many forms. I mean, people sometimes limit innovations to technological innovation, which is important. But institutional innovation are important. Financial innovations are important. Social innovations are important. We were talking about working with farming communities and so on. So it's and it's how you articulate that. But innovation for me is something that is part of, it's very much part of the ADN of the DNA of the university, and I think I see a lot of enthusiasm for that. I mean, I think that you have a startup as well.
Yeah.
And I think it's very important that you guide people in innovation as well. That
it would
success.
Be pleasure, yeah.
and we know that with, for example, the startup, the success rate is not that high, and that's I would say it's not by design, but it's like that. I mean, not everything can be successful. So we have to learn to accept failure and bounce back from failure as well. I think it's very, very important. And I think we are in a system that allows to do that.
Yeah, I think we do have all the facilities needed, and the ecosystem is very encouraging within UM6P. We do have a lot of program for doing acceleration and incubation of the startup.
Yeah, and we have not talked about that yet.
Yeah.
But I mean, the facilities, the lab, the support we have. I think we have a very, very strong competitive edge when we compare to other environments. So we have to take advantage of that.
Exactly. So let's talk now about the education, and So what's your educational offer that you are offering at the college? I know that you are working on a very promising and interesting engineering cycle that hopefully is going to be launched next year. So could you talk about this educational offer and about your educational offer in general within the college?
First, I mean, the college has more than 200 PhD students. So, I mean, we started reverse. We started with PhD.
Which
and now
PhD,
we had at some point 2 master degrees that didn't last. And I don't want to develop on the reasons, but I think... And it was clearly will from the university and the president to have a 5 years degree. So we are now developing a Bac plus 5 prépa intégré. If I can, I don't know the equivalent in English, but an engineering degree that should start in September 2025. So the next academic year. Quite exciting, sometimes frightening.
You already received some...
We are ready to... we have more than 24,000 applicants.
Wow.
Well, those applicants are multiple. They go to different colleges and schools, but at UM6P. But 24,000 is a very large number, so I think there is an interest for that. We are just waiting for the accreditation of the first 2 years now. A bit of a delay in in the accreditation process with the Ministry of Higher Education. So I hope that we'll be able to get it. It's been a very interesting discussion because what we want to do is we want to provide a degree that is not a replicate of something that you find elsewhere in Morocco. I think we want to create, value addition is also not repeat what is done. We want,
and it needs to respond to a specific gaps within the
existing. So we want also to the engineers grading in 5 years to be able to work in groups, in teams. Multidisciplinarity will be very important to that. We want also our future engineers to be savvy with data, with modeling, with modeling approaches, very important. And we have decided to have only 3 options to start with: water, plant, and soil, and make them work together. Coated with education components related to big data science, social science, economic science, and multidisciplinarity. So that's so excited. We'll probably, the first cohort would be 30, 40 students, and then the adventure will start. So, but we really want to look at the challenges of tomorrow, and I believe that an ag engineer or agronomist the needs are not the same today than they were 30 or 40 years ago. So, yeah.
That's great, yeah. Let's talk research now. You already mentioned the number of the PhD student that you have in the college. Could you remind how much?
It's a bit over 200 PhD students.
200?
Yeah.
Wow. Big number.
It is too big.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and you have been did lots of effort to sign this partnership within CGIAR because, of course, of your strong connection within this institution. Could you talk about this partnership and what is offering to the PhD community?
So we started last year with that UM6P CGIAR PhD scholarship. There's also we are developing a scholarship for postdocs because postdoc stage is very important in the career of young scientists. But in terms of numbers, I think the university has about 9-10% foreign students, African students mostly. In our PhD program, I think we are over 20. It's probably around 22. So we really want also to have a reasonable number of researchers, PhD students from sub-Saharan Africa. So the CGIAR scholarship program was developed with the different centers from the CGIAR. We signed about 10 MOUs with individual centers, but the agreement was global for the CGIAR. And we are planning, we are proposing research topics that are relevant for sub-Saharan African with the CGIAR. So one thing is that you cannot say we do research in Africa and agriculture if we just have an experiment station in Benbrik and we only work in Morocco. So we need working in context is very important. So working with the CGIAR, which has a strategy that is same philosophy than ours, really give the opportunity for young African PhD students to work in their own context and not working on a problem that is in Europe or United States and so on. So we started with 10. We are slowing down this year, but we had the ambition of having a cruising altitude of 25 new PhD students from that program every year. Now we have to look at the capacity because quantity and quality are not always,
Exactly, yeah.
So we are slowing down a bit this year, and we are looking at a model where we can work with other universities in Africa and in Europe and in the United States.
Nice.
With a similar program. So,
it will certainly support the research excellency within Morocco and Africa. Talking about the research excellence, Professor Bruno, one of the things that have been raised by the president of the UM6P, Mr. Hisham, is the necessity of publishing in high level. And I think you have witnessed that during the last monthly meeting within faculty. So, in your opinion, what's needed to drive our researcher and our PhD students to publish in high-level journals?
I think we are already doing it.
Yes, of course.
I think the college, if you take at the publications made by the college, we have around 70% in Q1, so the top journals. So it's good. I think it's important to publish for different reasons. Peer review is something that validates your research. You can write reports and so on. You'll not be challenged on what you do as a scientist. So, for PhD students, and we have the format where we have PhD thesis mostly, a compilation of papers, and I think it's a very good idea. And it's not. I would say it's not difficult to publish. The relevance of what you do in your publication is very important. So you can have high-quality scientific papers that are not relevant to our strategy and to what we want to do. So that's something else. But publishing is very important for the university because you probably know that we got our first ranking time of higher education, and part of the metrics that are used for the ranking are the publications in peer-reviewed journals. So. And the reputation of the university and so on. So I think that's one thing that we did pretty well at the college level, but at the research units that are now within the college. I think probably publish quite a few things as well, and we realize that. So you can combine different traits and things like that. That makes an amazing mix. So you can find very different PhD students that you find, they are good, they're amazing, and so on, and they have totally different profiles and way to approach things. But one thing I would say, and that's part of the diversity, I think we want to have the diversity. We don't want to have formatted people, very important. But I think curiosity is very important. People need to be curious. I think also self-criticism is very important as well, in a good sense. I think people need to question things. They cannot just be happy with things. So you need to treat yourself with a lot of difficult, tough things that related to your research. You always need to have some doubt, and that's a way to improve. And listening, I think, is very important, and communicating as well. So I think that's something that we see on the PhD students we have the chance to have in the college. I think they have very good communication skills, both from the listening perspective, but also from the talking and presenting. I had the chance to give few courses in the pre-doc this year, and I really enjoyed. I think I see many different profiles, and I cannot say this one is better than the other one. But we have seen now with the AI, and I know that many students, and I'm using AI as well.
But ethically,
But ethically, you use AI, and when to use it, when not to use it. Related to AI, I think there's a challenge for professors as well, because we cannot, do exams like we did, do assignments like we did 5 or 10 years ago.
Yeah, of course.
And for some of the things, I think it's a waste of time to try to say, well, you cannot use AI, but do that. So we have to reinvent our teaching. We have to reinvent the way we are making exam. We have to reinvent, the way we assess people, because it's obvious that some of the tasks that we did before that were quite important can now be done much faster.
Easily,
much faster. So it's time gained to do something else more creative, maybe. So it's and again, AI will never replace your creativity. So don't believe in that.
Exactly.
So it's and that's teaching. How to use AI is also something very important. And I think the university is putting a lot of importance on that as well. So that.
It's nice that you covered this AI. Talking about
I'm using it a lot. I script a lot. I used to script in R. And again, I was mentioning the kites and the balloons, and that I was doing a full week to get a couple of images. Now I just put my drone and I have everything in few hours. It's a bit the same. I've been scripting in R. I like programming in general. So I started very young programming, and then I just went back to my codes not so long ago, and I realized that ChatGPT was scripting much better than I would.
So why not using it?
Exactly.
That's nice.
System thinker. So that even if your field of research is narrow, you're able to put it in the right context to get the desired impact. And I think we need to connect, and we need to have people being able to connect. I mean, we are Polytechnic University, so what we are striving for is impact and concrete impact. So that's one thing. Curiosity, I mentioned that. I want also students, professors to be curious.
Maybe interdisciplinarity collaboration.
Interdisciplinarity, that's part of the the context. I mean,
to my mind, one thing related, for example, when we are tackling one of the agriculture challenges, for example, let's say that, for example, us as microbiologists, what I see in the problem from our perspective, from a microbiological perspective, physicists, they are seen from their perspective, soil sciences. So maybe there is a need to collaborate and thinking collectively to find the right and the customized solution to that problem.
Even business people and economists will see your work differently. I mean, you work on biofertilizer, they might just be very challenging to using. So
that's right.
And it's needed. It's needed in all the endeavors we have at the university. It doesn't mean that you need to be good in your discipline. You need to continue to be good in your discipline. You know, it's not like diluting and saying, "Well, I do a bit of everything." It's more how you connect.
Absolutely.
And the degree, you know, we are using that T-shape concept that is in wagoning. So you need to be broad. That's your T. That means that you need to be able to connect, and you need to be deep as well. And that's your discipline or your disciplines.
That's a good example. Okay, so let's finish with two last common question. Your vision about UM6P.
No, that's the toughest question now.
I mean, your impression. What's your view on UM6P as a young university, but leading a university?
I find this environment amazing.
Yeah.
Sometimes when I arrive here in the morning, I'm always happy to come to work. It's not all environments are like that. But sometimes I have to pinch myself just to say I'm not dreaming, because it's amazing what has been done. You know, in very few years.
Yeah.
It's just fantastic. Now I think we need, I mean, it's a bit like an airplane. We are taking off. Now we are just, I would say, a safer altitude. We will probably need to still to climb, but we need to start consolidation as well. So, and the challenge is just to keep the right level of plasticity. We cannot change everything every day. So I'd say at some point we need to consolidate a bit, and that's what we try to do with the college. But we need still to have the space for new things and challenging things. So I'm very optimistic because, well, I'm an optimist by nature, but I think it's a fantastic environment, and I never, before I took the job, I was expecting something good, but not to that level.
Great.
And still challenging environment. I think we are young, so not everything is perfect.
Exactly,
But we should strive to, improve.
We are improving,
exactly. Exactly.
And what's your view about the PhD podcast?
I'm the second one on lead also. No, I think it's a very good initiative, and again, I think it's been very pleasant to discuss with you.
Yeah, so, it's my pleasure.
So I would encourage you to continue, and I encourage PhD students, but other audience as well to watch it. Not especially because it's me, but I'm looking forward to new episodes in the future. So congrats for that. I think it's very good. Yeah.
Thank you so much, and thank you very much for your insightful sharing. Hopefully the episode will be very insightful and interesting for our PhD community. So dear PhD community, thank you for watching, and stay tuned for our upcoming episode with new guests and more powerful guests. Thank you so much.